everybody, I'm Alexis MV, USDF gold medalist and hopefully soon to be small R judge. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the importance of identifying where your seat bones are and where they should be located in the saddle when you're riding. I specialize in rider biomechanics, and this is the first thing that I address when I see new riders, and it's also something that I'm constantly working on in my own riding, because where your seat bones are has a huge effect on the stability and alignment of your torso, as well as your ability to influence the horse in all the work, but particularly in the lateral movements and for correct bending. So I have here a pelvic model, and I want to identify a few of the key parts of your anatomy so that you are better able to know like what's happening inside your body and have a frame of reference for where you should be in space. So when you look at the pelvis from the front, your pubic bone is in the middle here, and the term pubic bone is actually a little bit misleading because the front of your pelvis is connected by cartilage. So what we call the pubic bone is actually really a strip of cartilage in the middle here. And then your seat bones are equidistant, or should be equidistant from your pubic bone, and they are the lowest part of your pelvis, and they're the part that you're going to feel through your flesh on the saddle. And then when we look at the pelvis from the side view, then we see the hip joint is here, which is actually quite a bit beneath where people usually refer to their hips, and that is the part of your body that you can feel when you put your hand on your hips. Is actually this wing of the pelvis here, but the hip joint is quite a bit below it. And this model is a female pelvis, but I actually find that in real life, most female pelvises don't have the hip joint directly in line with the seat bone. The seat bone is placed a little bit further back, and the hip joint is more forward. And that's important to know because if you're a woman, it's going to have an effect on your ability to really get the seat bones pointed where they ought to point in the saddle and still have the shape of your leg that we consider ideal in dressage. At the back of the pelvis, your sacrum is this region here, and it also is connected to the wings of your pelvis via cartilage. And the reason it's important to know that your pelvis is attached at the front and the back by cartilage is because that means it has more mobility. So there is some ability for your seat bones to move closer together or further apart, and as well as the ability for you to keep the one forward and one back just because of the shearing forces inside your body, or because of the rotation of your torso. And then your tailbone is down here at the bottom of your sacrum. So when we're talking about the correct position of seat bones in the saddle, what we're looking for is that you have both seat bones on the lowest, flattest part of the saddle, and that they point straight down. And the other important thing to know about that placement is that if you have a saddle that you really enjoy riding in and that feels good to you, chances are it's because it enables you to do that really easily, like that position comes naturally because your personal conformation aligns with the slope of the saddle in the twist area here. This part of the saddle would match really well with this angle here of your pelvis, and this part of your pelvis is called the rami. So if your seat bones are pointed straight down and the twist of the saddle angle matches the angle of your rami, you're probably going to feel pretty comfortable and pretty stable. If you're not sure if your seat bones are pointed straight down, the way that you're going to work on identifying that is by doing some contrasting feelings of rotation of your pelvis. So what that would look like in the model is, first I would ask my rider to rotate their pelvis so that their pubic bone aims down. And what that would do is make it feel like your seat bones disappear out the back, and you no longer feel them because now there's a space between them and the saddle. And what this does to your upper body is it puts a really big hollow in your lower back, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on a person after I demonstrate with the model. So then I would ask them to rotate the other direction and put their tailbone down and the pubic bone up, and that would make the seat bones point upwards or point forwards and disappear out the front, and they're no longer underneath of you supporting the weight of your upper body. And in this position, your back would look rounded. as opposed to hollow. And so if we alternate between those two extremes, we can get a really good sense of where our seat bones are, and then really truly identify, can I get them to aim straight down in the saddle? The other thing that's important about the position of your seat bones is the lateral placement, and that's the placement of them relative to the midline of the horse. But I'm going to discuss that further in another video where we get into neutral spine and the alignment of the upper body as well. So now if you hang tight, then there's going to be a little segment here on how to do that with your own body rather than just watch the model do it. Okay, so I'm back here and now I'm on the saddle stand, and you could do this on your horse too if you don't have the ability to put a saddle on a stand. And you can even do some of this exploration in a chair, sitting on the edge of your chair so that your seat bones are most likely to be on the flattest part of the chair and help you to keep your upper body in line, not like slumping or rolling back onto your tailbone. It needs to be a hard chair. So if I'm sitting in the saddle and I can't feel my seat bones at all, before doing those contrasting rotations to verify that they point in the correct direction, I could sit on my hands and make sure that I can feel my seat bones on my fingers. And this is an exercise you can also do in a chair, which is really useful to get a really clear sense of what your personal anatomy feels like, because some people have one seat bone that is much broader than the other, like one is a doorknob and the other one feels like a stiletto heel, or that both of your seat bones are really wide and load-bearing, or both are very pointy. If you have intermittent or continuous pain when you ride and you feel your seat bones very prominently, it could be that it's because they are smaller and very pronounced, rather than like wider and flatter. And for those people, later on in this video series, I will discuss some exercises that help you to create the right amount of cushion in your pelvic floor if you have pointier seat bones. But for now, we're just going to be working on identifying where they are and feeling them in there. So I know that I can feel my seat bones, so I'm going to demonstrate the rotations that I showed you with the pelvic model. So first, I would rotate my pelvis so that my pubic bone goes down, and when I do that, it puts this curve in my back, and now my seat bones are pointed towards the rear of the horse, or somewhat like backwards and up, and I no longer have them contact with the saddle, and it makes my upper body pretty unstable because I have this hollow. So you can imagine if I was riding a horse that maybe stopped suddenly, it would probably make me fall forward, and if I was riding a horse that was reluctant to go forward, it's a really difficult position from which to encourage them because I don't have a vertical alignment, and it also tends to make people grip with their leg to catch their balance because of this hollow. And then I'm going to do the inverse rotation where I put my tailbone down and my pubic bone up, and now my seat bones have gone forward and they're not really making contact with the saddle anymore either. It's just harder to see in this position. And you can see it's put a rounding to my lower back rather than a hollow. So if I did those rotations back and forth a couple times, then I could arrive at where I'm sure that they are pointed straight down. And that it enables me to align my upper body on top of them much more easily in what is going to be a neutral spine position, which I'm also going to discuss in the next video. So hopefully this helps you to figure out where your seat bones are and identify the correct placement of them in the vertical plane, and your horse will probably thank you for being more stable. And if you liked this video and you want to learn more about rider biomechanics and the other areas that I think are important for being a really complete and correctly skilled rider, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more.